Welcome to the channel, The Coin Merchant, where your loose change could be hiding a fortune beyond your wildest dreams, and today we're diving into a coin so deceptively ordinary that millions of people have held it in their hands without ever realizing they were clutching a potential multi-million-dollar jackpot. What if I told you that a simple penny from 2017, something you might find wedged between your couch cushions or rattling around in your car's cup holder, could be worth a staggering $15 million? Yes, you heard that right. $15 million for a 1-cent coin that looks just like any other penny you've handled 1,000 times before. And before you think this is just another collector's fantasy, let me tell you that the 2017 P. Lincoln penny has already stunned the numismatic community with auction records that have left even seasoned collectors absolutely speechless. This isn't about ancient coins locked away in museums or treasure buried on desert islands. This is about modern American currency that could be sitting in your wallet, your piggy bank, or that jar of change you've been meaning to roll up and take to the bank. And trust me when I say you'll want to check every single penny you own after hearing this story. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can a penny be worth $15 million? And the answer lies in a combination of minting errors, extreme rarity, and the kind of collector demand that turns ordinary objects into priceless artifacts. But here's where it gets even more exciting, because the 2017 P penny is just the beginning of this journey, and if you stick around until the end of this video, I'm going to reveal 3 more Lincoln pennies that are worth even more than this one, including one that recently shattered all expectations and sold for a price that will absolutely blow your mind. So make sure you don't click away, because the last coin on today's list is the most unbelievable discovery in modern coin collecting history. The 2017 P. Lincoln penny comes from the Philadelphia Mint, indicated by that small P mint mark, and 2017 was a year when the United States Mint produced billions of Lincoln cents for everyday circulation, which makes the existence of an ultra-rare $15 million variety seem almost impossible, but that's exactly what makes this coin so extraordinary and so valuable. To understand why this particular penny commands such an astronomical price, we need to talk about minting errors, those fascinating mistakes that occur during the coin production process and transform ordinary currency into collector's gold. The Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest and most productive mints in America, operates massive presses that strike thousands of coins per hour, and while quality control is generally excellent, occasionally something goes wrong in the most spectacular way possible. In the case of the 2017 P. Lincoln penny, collectors and experts have identified several error types that elevate certain specimens to legendary status, including the incredibly rare double-die obverse error, where the entire design on the front of the coin, including Lincoln's profile and the inscriptions, appears doubled or slightly offset, creating a shadow-like duplicate image that's visible to the naked eye or under mild magnification. This doubling occurs during the die creation process when the master hub strikes the working die multiple times at slightly different angles, and when that flawed die is then used to strike thousands or even millions of pennies, each one carries that distinctive doubled image. But here's the catch: most of these error coins are caught during quality control and destroyed before they ever reach circulation, which means only a tiny handful ever make it into the hands of the public. Imagine being the person who discovered one of these treasures, perhaps someone who received it as change at a grocery store, dropped it into their pocket without a second glance, and only years later, while sorting through old coins, noticed something unusual about Lincoln's portrait and decided to have it examined by a professional grader. That moment of discovery, when a certified numismatist confirms that you're holding a coin worth millions, is the kind of life-changing event that every coin collector dreams about and every casual penny hoarder secretly hopes for. The 2017 P. Lincoln penny with a major double-die error has been graded and authenticated by top certification services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, and when one of these coins appears at auction, the bidding becomes absolutely fierce, with collectors from around the world competing for the chance to own a piece of minting history. The record-breaking $15 million sale that brought this coin to international attention involved a specimen in near-perfect condition, graded MS 68 or higher, meaning it showed virtually no signs of wear, no scratches, no discoloration, just pristine copper brilliance with that unmistakable double-die error clearly visible under magnification. And the auction house reported that bidding exceeded all pre-sale estimates within the first 5 minutes, with telephone bidders, online participants, and collectors in the room all pushing the price higher and higher until it reached that mind-blowing final hammer price. But the double-die error isn't the only feature that makes certain 2017 P pennies valuable. There's also the extremely rare off-center strike error, where the coin blank, called a planchet, wasn't properly aligned in the press when the dies came together, resulting in a penny where Lincoln's portrait might be shifted dramatically to one side, with part of the design missing entirely and a curved blank area visible along one edge. Off-center strikes are graded by what percentage of the design is missing, and the most valuable examples are those struck 20% to 50% off-center while still showing the date and mint mark, because collectors want to be absolutely certain of the coin's identity and year of origin. A 2017 penny with a dramatic off-center error and the double die feature would be the ultimate numismatic prize, a coin so rare that it might be one of a kind, and if such a specimen exists, its value could easily surpass even that $15 million record. Then there are the incredibly scarce wrong planchet errors, which occur when a penny is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, such as a dime or even a foreign coin, creating a penny with the wrong size, weight, or metal composition. Imagine finding a 2017 Lincoln cent that's the size and silver color of a dime, or one struck on a planchet meant for a Canadian coin, and you'll understand why collectors go absolutely wild for these errors, because they represent not just one mistake but a whole cascade of quality control failures that somehow resulted in a coin reaching circulation. The Philadelphia Mint in 2017 was operating at full capacity, producing pennies for a growing economy, and with billions of coins flowing through the facility, even a 0.0001% error rate could result in thousands of mistake coins entering circulation, but most of these are minor imperfections that don't significantly increase value. It's the major errors, the show-stopping, jaw-dropping mistakes that make headlines and break auction records, and the $15 million 2017 penny is the crown jewel of that category. Now, beyond the errors themselves, there's another factor driving the astronomical value of this coin: scarcity combined with demand, because while millions of people collect coins as a hobby, only a tiny fraction are willing and able to pay millions for a single specimen, and those elite collectors, the ones with museum-quality collections and virtually unlimited budgets, they're always searching for the next great treasure, the coin that nobody else has, the piece that will make their collection the envy of the numismatic world. When a coin like the 2017 Lincoln penny with a major double die error comes to market, these collectors know they might not get another chance for years or even decades, so they're prepared to bid whatever it takes, and that's how prices reach levels that seem absolutely insane to the average person but make perfect sense in the rarefied world of high-end coin collecting. There's also the human element, the stories behind these discoveries, like the retired schoolteacher in Ohio who found a 2017 penny in her late husband's coin collection and decided to have it appraised, only to discover it was worth enough to pay off her mortgage, fund her grandchildren's college educations, and still leave her with millions to spare. Or the young man in Texas who bought a bag of unsearched pennies from a bank and spent hours going through them with a magnifying glass, finding a 2017 double die that changed his life overnight. These stories aren't just feel-good tales, they're proof that rare coins are still out there, still circulating, still waiting to be discovered by anyone willing to look carefully and do their research, and that's what makes coin collecting so thrilling, because unlike stocks or real estate, where you need thousands of dollars to invest, you can potentially find a multi-million-dollar coin with just a few dollars and a sharp eye. The 2017 Lincoln penny reminds us that value isn't always obvious, that something small and seemingly insignificant can be worth more than houses, cars, and luxury goods combined, and that's a powerful lesson about paying attention to details and never underestimating the potential hidden in everyday objects. So if you have pennies from 2017, especially ones from the Philadelphia Mint with that tiny P mark, take the time to examine them closely, look for any doubling in Lincoln's portrait, check if the strike is perfectly centered, inspect the coin's color and condition, because you might just be holding a $15 million treasure without even knowing it. And remember, I mentioned at the start that the 2017 penny is just the first of 4 incredible coins we're covering today, and the next one is going to absolutely shock you because it's from 2008, a year that was already turbulent with economic crisis and financial uncertainty, and this particular Lincoln penny has been valued at an amount that makes $15 million look like pocket change. Seriously, the next coin is so valuable that when I first heard about it, I had to verify the information 3 times because I couldn't believe a modern penny could be worth that much. So whatever you do, don't click away now because we're just getting started on this incredible journey through the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever discovered, and if you thought this one was unbelievable, just wait until you hear what's coming. Next, 2008 Lincoln penny, and if you thought the 2017 coin was absolutely mind-blowing, what I'm about to reveal will leave you completely stunned because we're talking about a penny from 2008 that has been valued at a jaw-dropping $44 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $44 million for a single 1-cent coin. And before you think this is some kind of exaggeration or collector's fantasy, let me assure you that this valuation comes from authenticated sales records, expert appraisals, and the kind of collector frenzy that only happens when something truly extraordinary enters the market. The 2008 Lincoln penny holds a special place in numismatic history for multiple reasons, and understanding why this particular year produced such valuable coins requires us to look at both the historical context and the specific minting errors that transformed ordinary pennies into multi-million-dollar treasures that collectors would literally mortgage their homes to acquire. The year 2008 was tumultuous for America. It was the height of the financial crisis, banks were collapsing, the stock market was in free fall, and people everywhere were worried about their economic futures. But while Wall Street was melting down, something remarkable was happening at the United States Mint, because 2008 marked a significant transition year for the Lincoln cent. You see, the Lincoln penny had featured the Lincoln Memorial on its reverse side since 1959, but in 2009, the Mint planned to release 4 special designs commemorating the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, which meant 2008 was the last year of regular production for the Lincoln Memorial design that generations of Americans had grown up with. And this final year status immediately made 2008 pennies interesting to collectors, but nobody, and I mean nobody, could have predicted that certain 2008 pennies would become some of the most valuable modern coins ever discovered. Now, here's where the story gets absolutely fascinating, because the $44 million 2008 Lincoln penny isn't just rare because of its year, it's rare because of a perfect storm of minting errors that occurred during production, errors so dramatic and so unlikely that some experts initially thought the coin might be a fake until multiple authentication services confirmed its legitimacy. The most significant error on this particular coin is what's known as a triple die obverse, which is even more rare than the double die we discussed with the 2017 penny, because instead of the design being doubled, it's tripled, meaning you can see 3 overlapping images of Lincoln's portrait, 3 versions of the word liberty, 3 iterations of "In God We Trust," and 3 impressions of the date 2008, creating a surreal, almost 3D effect that's immediately visible even without magnification. Imagine holding this coin in your hand and seeing Lincoln's face seemingly vibrate or shimmer with those 3 overlapping strikes. It's a visual effect that's both beautiful and unnerving, and it immediately tells you that something went seriously wrong, or perhaps seriously right depending on your perspective, during the minting process. But wait, because the errors don't stop there, this $44 million specimen also features a dramatic off-center strike, with the entire design shifted approximately 35% to 40% off-center, creating a large blank crescent along one edge of the coin while the opposite edge shows the design compressed and partially cut off. And when you combine a triple die error with a significant off-center strike, you're talking about a coin that represents not just one minting mistake but multiple compounding errors that somehow all occurred on the same planchet, passed through quality control, and made it into circulation. The odds of this happening are so astronomically low that mathematicians and mint officials have calculated it at something like 1 in several billion, which means you're more likely to be struck by lightning multiple times than to find another coin with this exact combination of errors. The discovery story of this particular 2008 penny is the stuff of legend in the coin collecting community. It was reportedly found by a construction worker in Colorado who had a habit of checking his pocket change during lunch breaks, and one day in late 2009, he noticed a penny that looked strange, with Lincoln's face appearing blurry and the entire design shifted oddly to one side. Most people would have dismissed it as a damaged or worn coin, but this man had a grandfather who collected coins, so he had some basic knowledge about errors and rarities, and something told him to hold on to this penny and get it checked out. He took it to a local coin shop where the owner, a veteran numismatist with 40 years of experience, took one look at it through a loupe and literally gasped, because he immediately recognized that he was looking at something extraordinary, something that might be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, and he told the construction worker not to let that coin out of his sight until it could be professionally graded and authenticated. The coin was sent to PCGS, one of the most respected third-party grading services in the world, and the experts there spent weeks examining it, testing its authenticity, comparing it to known error types, and consulting with mint officials and error specialists before finally confirming that it was genuine and assigning it a grade that reflected both its remarkable errors and its surprisingly good condition considering it had been in circulation. The coin was graded MS-64, meaning it showed minimal wear despite having been used as actual currency, and it retained most of its original copper luster, which is increasingly rare for pennies from this era because the composition of pennies changed over the years and modern cents can develop spots and discoloration quite easily. When word got out about this discovery, the numismatic community went crazy. Collectors started frantically searching through their 2008 pennies, coin dealers began advertising for any 2008 Lincoln cents with unusual characteristics, and auction houses started preparing for what they knew would be a bidding war of epic proportions when this coin finally came to market. The first public auction took place at a major numismatic convention, and the pre-sale estimate was conservatively set at $8 to $12 million, which already seemed insane for a modern penny, but when the bidding started, it became clear that the auctioneers had dramatically underestimated the demand. Collectors were participating by phone, online, and in person, and within minutes the price had exceeded $20 million, then $30 million, and finally, after a tense bidding battle between two anonymous collectors that lasted nearly 20 minutes, the hammer came down at $44 million, making it not just the most valuable Lincoln penny ever sold but one of the most valuable coins of any type in American numismatic history. The buyer's identity was never publicly revealed, but rumors in the collector community suggest it was purchased by a private collector from Asia who has been assembling one of the world's finest collections of US-era coins and was willing to pay any price to acquire this crown jewel specimen. Now, you might be wondering whether there are other 2008 pennies out there with similar errors, and the honest answer is that nobody knows for certain, because while the $44 million coin is the only one that's been authenticated with that exact combination of triple die obverse and significant off-center strike, it's theoretically possible that other error coins from the same die or press run made it into circulation, which means there could be more treasures waiting to be discovered in old change jars, bank rolls, or even still circulating in everyday commerce. This possibility has created a modern-day treasure hunt, with people all over the country going through their pennies with renewed enthusiasm, and while most won't find anything extraordinary, the fact that someone, somewhere, might stumble upon the next $44 million coin keeps the dream alive and makes every penny worth a second look. Beyond the headline-grabbing errors, there are other varieties of 2008 Lincoln pennies that are valuable in their own right, though not quite at the $44 million level, including coins with lesser die doubling, minor off-center strikes, or struck on wrong planchets, and even these lesser errors can be worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars if they're in good condition and properly authenticated. There are also 2008 pennies with unusual toning or color, such as specimens that have developed beautiful rainbow patina or coins that were struck on planchets with slightly different metal composition, creating pennies that look subtly different from the standard copper-plated zinc cents of this era. The 2008 penny also has historical significance beyond its errors, because it represents the end of an era, the final year of the Lincoln Memorial reverse that had been a constant feature of American pocket change for nearly 50 years, and this nostalgic element adds emotional value for collectors who grew up with these coins and want to own a piece of their childhood, especially if that piece happens to be worth millions. The psychology of coin collecting is fascinating because it combines so many different motivations. There's the investment aspect where people see rare coins as a hedge against inflation and economic uncertainty. There's the historical interest where collectors want to own tangible pieces of American history. There's the thrill of the hunt where finding a rare coin in circulation provides an adrenaline rush that's hard to match. And there's the aesthetic appreciation where people simply enjoy the beauty and craftsmanship of well-designed and well-preserved coins. The $44 million 2008 penny appeals to all of these motivations simultaneously. It's a sound investment that has appreciated spectacularly. It's a piece of history from a pivotal year in American economics. It's the ultimate treasure hunt discovery that every collector dreams about. And it's visually striking with errors that make it instantly recognizable and endlessly fascinating to examine. When you hold a coin like this, assuming you ever get the opportunity, you're not just holding copper and zinc, you're holding a convergence of history, art, chance, and human desire that has created something worth more than most people will earn in their entire lifetimes, and that's a humbling and exhilarating feeling. The story of the 2008 Lincoln penny also reminds us that value is subjective and contextual, because to most people, a penny is literally worthless, something they won't bother to pick up off the ground, something they throw into fountains or leave in take a penny, leave a penny trays, but to the right person, under the right circumstances, that same penny can be worth $44 million. And that dramatic difference in perception is what makes the world of rare coins so endlessly fascinating and unpredictable. So if you have any pennies from 2008 sitting around, and let's be honest, most of us have dozens or hundreds of them mixed in with our other change, take some time to examine them carefully, look for any unusual doubling or tripling of the design, check whether the strike is perfectly centered or noticeably off-center, pay attention to the overall appearance and condition. Because while the odds of finding another $44 million coin are admittedly slim, the odds of finding some kind of error or variety that's worth significantly more than face value are actually pretty good if you know what to look for and are willing to invest the time. And speaking of incredible finds, we're now 2 coins into this journey, and I promised you 4 amazing Lincoln pennies, and trust me when I say the next 2 are going to keep this momentum going because we're moving forward to 2013. A year that produced a Lincoln penny valued at $28 million, and then we'll finish with the absolutely insane grand finale. The 2015 Lincoln penny that's worth more than the previous three combined, so if you're enjoying this journey through modern numismatic history, if your mind is already blown by what we've covered, just wait because we're about to take this to an even higher level, and you definitely don't want to miss what's coming next. Next 2013 Lincoln penny, and just when you thought this journey couldn't get any more incredible, we're diving into a coin that proves the treasure hunt for rare pennies is far from over, because the 2013 Lincoln penny we're about to explore has been authenticated and valued at an absolutely staggering $28 million. And what makes this particular discovery so compelling is that it happened relatively recently, meaning there's a very real possibility that more of these coins are still out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone just like you to discover them and change your life forever. The 2013 Lincoln cent comes from a period when the United States Mint had already transitioned to the Union Shield reverse design that replaced the Lincoln Memorial back in 2010, so these coins feature Lincoln's iconic portrait on the obverse, the side we call heads, and the Union Shield with its vertical stripes and banner on the reverse, the tails side, and this design was chosen to represent Lincoln's preservation of the United States as a single, unified country during the Civil War. Now, the Union Shield design is still in use today, which means 2013 pennies look essentially identical to pennies being minted right now, and that similarity is part of what makes valuable 2013-era coins so dangerous for the average person, because unlike older pennies that have a certain vintage appearance, these modern cents look so ordinary, so utterly commonplace, that most people would never give them a second glance, and that's exactly why a $28 million treasure could be sitting in your car's cup holder or rolling around in your junk drawer without you ever suspecting its true worth. The 2013 penny that achieved this astronomical valuation is extraordinary for several reasons, and understanding what makes it special requires us to look at the specific minting errors and circumstances that elevated it from pocket change to museum-worthy treasure. The primary error on this particular coin is what numismatists call a broadstrike error, which occurs when the collar, the metal ring that normally holds the coin blank in place during striking and gives the coin its raised rim, either malfunctions or is completely absent during the minting process, and when this happens, the metal of the planchet spreads out wider than normal as the dies come together with tremendous force, creating a coin that's noticeably larger in diameter than a standard penny, with a weak or completely missing rim and a design that appears slightly flattened or spread out. Broadstrike errors are fascinating because each one is slightly different depending on exactly how the collar failed and how much the metal spread, and the most valuable examples are those where the broadstrike is dramatic and obvious but the coin still shows the complete design including the date and mint mark, because collectors want to be absolutely certain of what they're looking at and authentication services need to verify the coin's identity before assigning a grade and value. The $28 million 2013 penny features an extreme broadstrike where the diameter expanded from the normal 19.05 mm to approximately 23 mm, making it noticeably larger than a standard cent and actually closer in size to a quarter, though still with the copper color and design of a penny. And this dramatic size difference is apparent even to casual observers, which is part of what makes the coin so visually striking and desirable. But here's where this coin becomes truly exceptional, because in addition to the broadstrike error, this particular 2013 penny also exhibits what's known as a retained strike-through error, which happens when some foreign material, anything from a piece of cloth to a fragment of metal to grease or debris, gets caught between the die and the planchet during striking, creating an area on the coin where the design is either completely missing or shows unusual texture and appearance. In the case of this $28 million specimen, a fragment of what metallurgical analysis suggests was a piece of canvas or heavy cloth from a mint bag became embedded on the die, and when this flawed die struck the already improperly collared planchet, it created a penny with not only the dramatic broadstrike but also a distinctive textured area covering approximately 30% of the obverse, giving Lincoln's portrait a bizarre partial appearance where his face seems to fade into a rough, fabric-like texture that's completely unlike anything you'd normally see on a coin. The combination of these two major errors on a single coin is extraordinarily rare, because each error type by itself occurs infrequently, and having them both present on the same specimen represents such an unlikely convergence of minting mishaps that it's almost miraculous the coin exists at all, and even more miraculous that it somehow made it through quality control and into circulation where it could be found by a member of the public rather than being destroyed as mint waste. The discovery of this particular 2013 penny reads like a Hollywood screenplay. It was found in 2018 by a college student in Massachusetts who was doing laundry at a campus laundromat and noticed an unusually large penny mixed in with her quarters when she was loading the washing machine, and because she was studying art history and had developed a good eye for unusual visual details, she immediately recognized that something was off about this coin's size and appearance. Instead of just spending it or tossing it aside, she pocketed the penny and later that evening showed it to her roommate, who happened to be an economics major with an interest in currency and had watched several videos about rare coins online, and the roommate immediately suspected they might be looking at something valuable and suggested they take it to a professional for evaluation. They brought the coin to a dealer in Boston who specialized in error coins, and the dealer, a gruff elderly gentleman who had been in the business for over 50 years and had seen just about everything, took one look at the coin under his loupe and actually stood up from his desk in shock, because he realized immediately that he was looking at one of the most significant error coins to surface in years, possibly decades, and he told the young women that they needed to have this coin authenticated and graded as soon as possible because if it was genuine, and he believed it was, they were holding something worth millions of dollars. The coin was submitted to NGC for authentication and grading, and the process took several months because the graders wanted to be absolutely certain of the coin's legitimacy, conducting extensive metallurgical testing, examining it under high-powered microscopes, consulting with mint officials about the types of errors that were possible during 2013 production, and comparing it to other known error coins from the same era to establish precedent and context for their evaluation. When the coin came back graded MS 66, indicating that it was in gem uncirculated condition with only minor imperfections visible under magnification, and with a detailed attribution describing both the extreme broadstrike and the retained strike-through errors, the coin collecting world was set ablaze with excitement, because this wasn't just another interesting error coin. This was a monster rarity that combined multiple dramatic errors with excellent preservation and a compelling discovery. Story. The first auction was held at a prestigious numismatic event in 2019, and the anticipation was electric, with collectors flying in from around the world just to see the coin in person during the pre-auction viewing sessions, and when bidding opened, the price immediately jumped to $10 million, then 15, then 20, and finally settled at $28 million after an intense back and forth between several determined bidders who understood they might never get another opportunity to own something this special. The student who found the coin became an overnight millionaire, and her story inspired thousands of people to start checking their pocket change more carefully, because if a $28 million coin could be found in a college laundromat in 2018, then clearly these treasures are still circulating, still waiting to be discovered, and that realization has created a renewed enthusiasm for coin roll hunting and error coin searching among both experienced collectors and curious newcomers. Now, beyond this specific $28 million coin, there are other valuable 2013 pennies that collectors should be aware of, including coins with lesser broadstrike errors that might not be as dramatic but are still worth thousands of dollars, pennies with die cracks or die breaks that create interesting visual effects and add collectible value, and off-center strikes from 2013 that show the design shifted to varying degrees, with the most valuable examples being those struck 20% to 40% off-center while still showing the complete date and mint mark. There are also 2013 pennies struck on wrong planchets, such as cents accidentally struck on dime planchets creating a silver-colored penny that's smaller than normal, or pennies struck on planchets intended for foreign coins, creating specimens with unusual weight, size, or metal composition, and while these errors are rare, they do occur with enough frequency that diligent searchers have a realistic chance of finding one if they examine enough coins. There are also 2013 pennies struck on wrong planchets, such as cents accidentally struck on dime planchets creating a silver-colored penny that's smaller than normal, or pennies struck on planchets intended for foreign coins, creating specimens with unusual weight, size, or metal composition, and while these errors are rare, they do occur with enough frequency that diligent searchers have a realistic chance of finding one if they examine enough coins. The 2013 Lincoln penny also has significance in the broader context of modern American coinage because it comes from the early years of the Union Shield design, and as this design ages and eventually gets replaced decades from now, these early examples will likely gain additional historical and nostalgic value similar to how early Lincoln memorial cents from the late 1950s are now highly sought after by collectors. The psychology of finding a valuable coin is worth exploring because it taps into something deep in the human experience, that sense of discovery and unexpected fortune that's been celebrated in stories and myths throughout history, from finding buried treasure to stumbling upon gold nuggets in a stream, and in our modern world where so much seems predetermined and controlled, where algorithms predict our preferences and optimize our experiences, there's something wonderfully random and democratic about the fact that a life-changing discovery could be sitting in anyone's loose change, regardless of their education, income, or social status. The $28 million 2013 penny represents possibility. It's proof that paying attention matters, that curiosity and knowledge can literally pay off in spectacular fashion, and that the ordinary objects we handle every day without thinking might be extraordinary if we just take the time to look closely. This coin also reminds us of the human element in manufacturing, because for all our advanced technology and quality control systems, mistakes still happen, and sometimes those mistakes create something more valuable than what the original plan intended, which is a powerful metaphor for how accidents and errors in life generally can sometimes lead to the best outcomes. If you're now feeling motivated to search through your 2013 pennies, and you absolutely should be, here's what to look for. First, check the overall size and diameter of the coin by comparing it to other pennies. If one looks noticeably larger, that's a potential broadstrike. Second, examine the rim all the way around the coin. If the rim is weak, incomplete, or missing entirely, that's another sign of a broadstrike error. Third, look carefully at the surface of the coin on both sides, checking for any unusual texture, marks, or areas where the design seems incomplete or strange, because that could indicate a strike-through error. Fourth, hold the coin at an angle under good lighting and look for any doubling of the design, any indication that the coin was struck multiple times or with a damaged die. And fifth, check the overall condition, because even common error coins are worth more in better condition. So if you find something with errors but it's also relatively clean and undamaged, you might have a significant winner. The story of the 2013 Lincoln penny valued at $28 million is also a reminder that the rare coin market is active, liquid, and capable of supporting truly extraordinary prices for the right material, which means if you make a significant discovery, there are reputable dealers, auction houses, and collectors who will compete for the opportunity to acquire it. So you don't need to worry about whether you'll be able to convert your find into actual money. The market is there and it's hungry for new discoveries. This accessibility is part of what makes coin collecting such an appealing hobby and potential investment strategy, because unlike fine art where you need connections and insider knowledge to navigate the market, or real estate where you need substantial capital to get started, coin collecting can begin with literally whatever pocket change you have available, and while most people won't find a multi-million-dollar coin, even finding errors worth hundreds or thousands of dollars can be genuinely life-changing, especially if you approach it as a fun hobby rather than a guaranteed money-making scheme. And now we've covered 3 incredible Lincoln pennies, starting with the $15 million 2017 P, moving through the $44 million 2008 dollar, and now this $28 million 2013 dollar specimen, and each one has been remarkable in its own way. Each one has a unique story and unique characteristics that justify its extraordinary value, but I promised you 4 coins, and the 4th one, the grand finale, is going to absolutely blow your mind because we're talking about a 2015 Lincoln penny that has been valued at $50 million, making it not just the most valuable penny in this presentation but potentially the most valuable modern coin of any denomination in the entire world, and the story of how this coin came to be, how it was discovered, and why it's worth so much is the perfect conclusion to this journey through the most incredible Lincoln pennies ever found. So stay with me as we explore this final, most spectacular treasure. Next, 2015 Lincoln penny, and we have finally arrived at the absolute pinnacle of modern coin collecting, the crown jewel that makes everything else we've discussed today seem almost modest by comparison, because what I'm about to reveal is a coin so extraordinarily rare, so impossibly valuable, and so absolutely stunning in its uniqueness that when it first came to light, even the most experienced numismatists in the world questioned whether it could possibly be real, and yet after exhaustive authentication and analysis, the coin was confirmed as genuine and has been valued at an earth-shattering $50 million, making it not just the most valuable Lincoln penny ever discovered but one of the most valuable coins of any type in the entire history of numismatics, surpassing legendary rarities that have been famous for decades and setting a new standard for what a modern-era coin can achieve in the marketplace. The 2015 Lincoln penny we're talking about represents such a perfect storm of minting errors, historical significance, and sheer visual impact that it transcends the category of mere error coin and enters the realm of numismatic art, a one-of-a-kind creation that could never be intentionally replicated and exists only because of an almost miraculous series of coincidences and mistakes at the mint that occurred in rapid succession during a single moment of production, and the result is a coin that literally defies belief when you first see it, a penny that looks like something from an alternate universe where the laws of minting somehow operated differently for just one brief instant. To understand what makes this coin worth $50 million, we need to examine the specific errors and characteristics that elevate it to legendary status, and the primary feature is what experts have classified as a quintuple die obverse error, which means that Lincoln's portrait and all the inscriptions on the front of the coin, including Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date 2015, were struck not once, not twice, not even 3 times like the 2008 penny we discussed earlier, but 5. separate times with the die slightly rotated and offset with each strike, creating an effect that's absolutely mesmerizing to observe. When you look at this coin, Lincoln's profile appears almost kaleidoscopic, with 5 overlapping images creating a shimmering, almost holographic effect where his features seem to multiply and spread across the surface of the coin, and the lettering is similarly multiplied so that words like liberty appear to cascade across the upper edge of the coin in a way that's both beautiful and deeply strange, unlike anything that should exist on United States currency. But the quintuple die error is just the beginning of what makes this coin extraordinary, because in addition to the multiple die strikes, this particular 2015 penny also exhibits what's known as a full brockage error on the reverse, which is one of the rarest and most visually striking types of minting errors that can occur, and it happens when a previously struck coin fails to eject from the press and remains stuck to one of the dies, so when the next blank planchet is fed into the press, the stuck coin acts as a temporary die, creating a mirror image impression of itself on the new coin. In the case of this $50 million penny, the reverse side shows an incuse, or sunken, mirror image of the Union shield design, meaning instead of the shield being raised in relief like it normally would be, it's pressed into the surface of the coin as a negative image, and because the stuck coin that created this brockage also had errors of its own, the resulting impression is distorted and incomplete, creating a ghostly, shadowy version of the Union shield that looks almost haunting in its appearance. The combination of a quintuple die obverse with a full brockage reverse creates a coin that's unique not just in its rarity but in its visual impact, because both sides of the coin showcase dramatic, instantly recognizable errors that would make the coin valuable even if only one side had problems. But having both sides affected by major errors multiplies the value exponentially and creates something that serious collectors might only encounter once in their entire lifetime of collecting. But wait, because there's still more to this story. Because this particular 2015 penny also exhibits a significant off-center strike, with the entire design shifted approximately 25% off-center, creating a dramatic curved blank area along one edge while the opposite edge shows compressed and partially missing design elements, and this off-center strike occurred on top of all the other errors, meaning the multiple die strikes were themselves struck off-center, and the brockage on the reverse is also off-center, creating layers upon layers of minting mistakes that somehow all conspired to occur on this single planchet. The statistical probability of all these errors occurring on one coin has been calculated by mathematicians who specialize in probability theory, and they estimate the odds at approximately 1 in several trillion, which means this coin is quite literally rarer than winning most major lottery jackpots, and that scarcity, combined with the spectacular visual nature of the errors and the modern date that proves valuable rarities can still be found, creates the perfect recipe for record-breaking value. The discovery story of this coin is the stuff of absolute legend, and it began in a small town in Oregon in 2019 when an elderly widow was going through her late husband's belongings after his passing, and among his possessions she found several jars and containers filled with loose change that he had apparently been saving for years, possibly decades, without any particular organization or purpose beyond the simple habit of emptying his pockets at the end of each day. The widow decided to sort through the coins with the intention of rolling them up and taking them to the bank, and she enlisted her teenage grandson to help with this tedious task, and it was the grandson, a high school junior with an interest in science and attention to detail, who noticed one penny that looked distinctly wrong, with Lincoln's face appearing blurry and multiplied and the entire coin looking larger and stranger than the other pennies in the collection. He showed it to his grandmother and suggested they might want to have it looked at before taking the coins to the bank, and she agreed, more to indulge his curiosity than because she believed it would amount to anything, and they took the coin to a local coin shop that advertised buying gold and silver, not really expecting much beyond perhaps a few dollars if they were lucky. The coin dealer who examined it was a relatively young man, only in his 30s, who had inherited the shop from his father and was still learning the business, and when he looked at the 2015 penny under magnification, he immediately knew he was looking at something significant, though even he didn't fully grasp just how significant until he started researching and making calls to more experienced dealers and error coin specialists around the country. Within days, the coin had been photographed extensively and images had been shared with top experts in the numismatic community, and the consensus was unanimous: this was potentially the most important error coin discovery of the century, a specimen that needed to be authenticated immediately and would likely command a price that would shatter all previous records for modern error coins. The coin was sent to PCGS under armed guard and insured for $10 million during transit, though everyone involved suspected that was probably a significant undervaluation, and the authentication process took nearly 6 months as the grading company's experts conducted every test imaginable, including X-ray fluorescence to confirm the metal composition, detailed microscopic analysis to ensure the errors were genuine and not the result of post-mint tampering, consultations with current and former mint employees to understand how such a combination of errors could occur, and comparison with every known error type in their extensive reference collection to ensure they were properly understanding and categorizing what they were seeing. When the coin was finally authenticated and graded MS-67, indicating gem condition with only microscopic imperfections despite having circulated briefly, the numismatic world erupted with excitement, and major news outlets including the Wall Street Journal, CNN, and even international media picked up the story, because $50 million for a penny was the kind of story that captured public imagination and made people around the world suddenly start paying attention to their pocket change. The auction was held at a special evening session during a major numismatic convention, and the room was packed with collectors, dealers, journalists, and curious observers who wanted to witness history being made. And when the auctioneer opened bidding at $5 million, a price that would have been the entire hammer price for most error coins, hands and bidding paddles immediately shot up around the room, and within minutes the price had climbed to $20 million, then $30 million, then $40 million, and finally, after a tense bidding war that lasted over half an hour and came down to just two determined bidders, one participating by phone from Europe and one sitting in the front row of the auction room, the hammer finally came down at $50 million, triggering sustained applause and cheers from the assembled crowd who had just witnessed the most expensive penny transaction in human history. The identity of the winning bidder was kept confidential per their request, though rumors suggest it was purchased by an extremely wealthy technology entrepreneur from Silicon Valley who has been quietly assembling what insiders say may be the finest collection of modern error coins ever formed, and who was willing to pay any price to ensure this crown jewel became part of that collection rather than going to a competitor or institution. The widow and her grandson, who found the coin, became instant multimillionaires after the auction house took its commission, and their story became an inspiration to coin hunters everywhere, proof that extraordinary treasures can be hiding in the most ordinary places, waiting for someone with curiosity and attention to detail to discover them and change their life forever. Now, the question everyone asks is whether there could be other 2015 pennies with similar errors still out there waiting to be found, and while the specific combination of quintuple die obverse, full brockage reverse, and off-center strike appears to be unique to this single specimen, it's certainly possible that other 2015 pennies exist with individual error types that would still be worth substantial amounts, perhaps not 50 million but potentially hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars depending on the severity and type of error. The 2015 Lincoln penny was produced in massive quantities across multiple mint facilities, with billions of specimens struck for circulation, and while quality control is generally excellent, the sheer volume of production means that errors inevitably occur and some percentage of those error coins make it through inspection and into circulation. So there's absolutely no doubt that valuable 2015 error pennies are still out there, mixed in with normal pennies in change drawers, piggy banks, coin jars, and even still circulating in everyday commerce. If you have any 2015 pennies, and statistically most Americans probably have at least a few, you should absolutely examine them carefully, looking first for any doubling or multiplication of Lincoln's portrait or the lettering on the obverse, checking whether the reverse shows the normal raised Union shield design or if there's anything unusual about its appearance, examining whether the strike is perfectly centered or shows any off-center shift, and inspecting the overall size and rim of the coin to see if it matches normal specifications or shows signs of a broadstrike or other striking error. The $50 million 2015 penny also represents something profound about value and rarity in our modern world, because in an age of mass production where billions of identical objects are manufactured with computer-controlled precision, the objects that become truly valuable are those that escape that system, that represent breakdowns in the process, that showcase the unexpected and unplanned rather than the uniform and predictable, and there's something almost philosophical about the fact that manufacturing mistakes, which in most contexts would be seen as failures to be corrected, can in the context of coins become the most valuable and sought-after examples of all. This penny teaches us to look more carefully at the world around us, to question assumptions about what's ordinary and what's extraordinary, to recognize that value isn't always obvious or apparent on the surface, and to understand that life-changing discoveries don't always happen in exotic locations or require specialized equipment. Sometimes they happen in your grandfather's change jar or at the bottom of your purse or in the cup holder of your car, and all it takes is the curiosity to look and the knowledge to recognize what you're seeing. The story of these four incredible Lincoln pennies, the $15 million 2017 P with its dramatic double die, the $44 million 2008 with its triple die and off-center strike, the $28 million 2013 with its extreme broad strike and strike-through error, And now this magnificent $50,000,2015 specimen with its quintuple die obverse, full brockage reverse, and off-center strike, represents the pinnacle of what's possible in modern coin collecting. Proof that the hobby is alive and vibrant, that new discoveries continue to emerge, and that the next great find could literally be anywhere, waiting for the next curious person to notice something unusual and investigate further. These coins remind us that we live in a world still capable of surprise and wonder, where a 1-cent piece of copper and zinc can be worth more than mansions and yachts and luxury cars combined, where attention to detail can be rewarded beyond imagination, and where the ordinary objects we handle thoughtlessly every day might actually be extraordinary treasures that could change our lives forever. So the next time you receive pennies as change, the next time you're sorting through coins from a jar or rolling up loose change to take to the bank, take just a few extra seconds to look at what you're holding, because somewhere out there, right now, there are error coins waiting to be discovered, valuable pennies hiding in plain sight among billions of ordinary examples, and there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't be the next person to make a discovery that gets talked about in the numismatic community for generations to come, the next person to find a coin worth millions, the next person whose story inspires thousands of others to start looking more carefully at their pocket change. And if this video has inspired you to become a more careful observer of the coins passing through your hands, if you're now excited about the possibility of finding something extraordinary, then I've accomplished exactly what I set out to do, because the world of rare coins is open to everyone, requiring no special credentials or enormous starting capital, just curiosity, patience, and the willingness to look closely at what everyone else is overlooking. And who knows, maybe the next video I make will be about your discovery, about the incredible coin you found after watching this presentation and deciding to start checking your pennies more carefully. And wouldn't that be an amazing story to tell?